Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today's guest is Tambry. She is a leadership and life coach, spiritual director, author of Awakening the Light, a survivors to thrivers going forward story, and mother of one daughter, Katie. Tambrys story of wounding, struggle, and healing encourages survivors of divorce to heal mind, body, and spirit, as well as overcome any limiting beliefs they may have around their worthiness to embrace their next life-giving and light-giving chapter. Welcome, Tambry. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you having me today.
Thank you. How's the weather there in your side of the world?
You know, it's not so bad. It was rainy all day yesterday. So today, the fact that it's still overcast but not raining is good. We'll take it. Although I know a lot of people consider rain a blessing, but it was one of those when you've got a little puppy and you take her outside and have to navigate all that, it makes it a little challenging.
Awesome. Good. So tell us, tell us your story. How did you become a parent?
Yes. So, when you're reading my intro, I thought about the fact that it's important to know that the limiting beliefs and things that were in me were created very young, and that ended up impacting decisions I made throughout my life, and ended up being something I had to overcome before I could actually move into my positive life story, which is to the title, My Light at the End of the Tunnel, because I definitely had some dark tunnels along the way. But one of the ones I would want to really highlight is that I had a sense of unworthiness, and I just had this deep in my spirit, and it was created because of childhood sexual abuse that happened to me, and no one coming to my aid. And so I developed this thing of I am not worthy of intervention. I am not worthy of care. And the other unfortunate thing was that I was groomed in that situation, which means they're really, really nice to you and kind of work you into their web. And so therefore I didn't trust kindness. And so the reason that's important as we talk about, our stories around life and love and lost love is that I did not date the best of people. And if I dated someone who was overly kind, I didn't trust it. And so what ended up happening was I ended up marrying abusers. And what that looked like in a nutshell is with my first husband, I graduated college, went straight into a doctoral program. And this is all part of me trying to prove myself and my worth by getting all the degrees and things. And so I'm in this doctoral program, and I'm, one of 5 people. They're paying me to go to school. I'm on first name basis with the professors. And my husband, who was this like uber macho male, ex-football player, ex-Marine kind of person, when we got home, he felt the power imbalance. Okay. And so when we got home, he made sure to reassert himself, I guess. And so long story short, I made it 6 months. My body ended up just kind of collapsing, and I literally escaped that situation. What I didn't do was I didn't do my healing work. And so what I did was I started on this wheel of proving myself again. And so I got into another program. I ended up, into a career of proving myself, and I never did the self-work. And I ended up years later marrying someone who was better, but still not kind. And I still explained away the bad behavior. And with this man, I had my daughter, Katie. So now here I am in a not great marriage with a little person that I'm, kind of weaving into this situation. And so I did the best I could to try and make it as positive for her as I could. But long story short, he ended up, it was kind of a gift in disguise, and that he ended up right when I was getting ready to have shoulder surgery. The night before, he tells me, I'm not happy, and basically I want a divorce. And so I had to go into shoulder surgery with this guy who's like basically saying, I'm going to leave you. And so anyway, it went downhill from there. And so, I had to recover from that shoulder surgery while he's, starting to move forward with these divorce proceedings. And I have a 12-year-old little girl. And not only did he leave me, he left her. He had an affair, and he basically, left us for this other woman. And, I can handle it, but don't do that to my daughter. And so, so I was left as a single parent with a very angry person. And I had to, I kind of took the brunt of her anger. I tried to always take the high road, but, that's why I didn't try and say anything real negative about him and that kind of thing. I just tried to ground myself and stay, being the best person I could to be for her. But oh my goodness, that was a very dark tunnel for me to kind of try and navigate those teen years, not being able to explain away his behavior and again, just have, we anyone who has kids knows, it can be a challenge, particularly when you're going it alone. So that's a little bit of my backstory, and I'll pause there before I share more about the kind of light at the end of the tunnel piece.
Yeah, I think incredible. And I mean, the fact that, we don't heal our inner work, like you're going from your first marriage into the second marriage, I guess, filling the void. You needed somebody there.
Yes.
You felt, I need somebody to be complete, to feel whole again.
Yes.
But I think without doing that inner work, you end up getting into the same kind of relationship, as you said, because everybody we get into our life, it's like our mirrors. And if how we feel on the inside, that's what we get to see on the outside. And of course, when you're in the middle of it, you don't see it. You just get triggered, and you get aggravated, you get angry, you get depressed, you get frustrated. But because we don't look inside, we don't see it. We only react.
Yes.
And it's difficult. I mean, I went not as like similar, but kind of relatable story. Also found out 3 days before my son was to be born, my second child, about everything. The divorce, not the divorce, but that everything was supposedly a mistake. And I went to give birth having my mind being somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And realizing that the life is never going to be the same again. That's it, it's done.
Yes.
So please share with us, what are some of the struggles that you faced? Was it financial? Was it emotional, mental, spiritual? What are some of the things that you were faced with having the newborn, your new baby? And
yes, and Katie she was always a very strong-willed person, and so she ended up acting out a lot, and so I was really struggling with how to navigate, having her, again, just acting out as a preteen and then as a teenager would. The good news for me, I had other friends who have found themselves in this situation, and they had not maintained their career, and so they were truly financially kind of destitute. And so that was fortunate for me that, I did have that underpinning, but at the same time trying to navigate it. And it was interesting because at first, for the first year, you still feel like you're still tied to this person. I mean, you got married them, you must obviously have loved them. And so, the first year was kind of off and on again, trying to, and he would lie, he'd do lies around, well, I've left her and I want to come back to you. And then the phone records say differently. And that kind of stuff. And I'm not a sleuth, but, I'm sitting here going in, trying to get detailed, because you feel crazy. Sometimes you feel really crazy with the stories they tell. And so, after a year, I kind of was like, okay, I might be ready to. Oh, and the other thing I would say is that I had started, before he left, I had started doing some of my healing work, and I actually have friends say that they believed that that was part of the reason why he left me, because I was growing stronger in my confidence in myself and claiming my worthiness. And so truly, I believe that healing journey I had already been on helped sustain me through this time. So from a spiritual perspective, I had gotten a pretty strong grounding at that point. So that was beautiful. The other really beautiful thing, and this is what I would hope for anyone going through this, is having a supportive network with you, people who will love you through this, people who will speak truth into your life through this. And I had that with friends, and I also had that through a spiritual women's group that I was a part of. And even, here I am, initially, I've got my ice machine that's got to be changed over to try and keep, and I had somebody to literally come over and move my arm up and down, which my husband should have been that person. But, having people who are, it's there for you and will do even the physical manipulation, fix you. I mean, it's the base things. But just having that support community around you is so incredibly important. And then again, when Katie was kind of going a little bit wild on me, I actually ended up taking a parenting course, because I truly felt like I didn't know. Sometimes I felt like I didn't know what the next step would be. What would that next right thing be to do? And that was really helpful, because it helped me feel like I wasn't so alone. I had these other people with similar stories, maybe even worse stories around me. And together we kind of were navigating it. And so that was really helpful for me. And yeah, and just that constant peace. And then, and then back to the light at the end of the tunnel, then the idea of even, dating again was something that it took me a while to step into it. And when I did, even though, I'd been I'd been single for a while and all, she still couldn't handle it. And so that was another thing for me to navigate. She caught me kissing somebody, and oh my goodness, you would have thought, that kind of thing. So, and so that's something else we have to navigate as adults is, when we feel ready for that next person, or at least to start dating and having some kind of a social life, how do we do that in a way that honors where they are? And yeah, so it was all just, there were so many different pieces to that for me.
Yeah. What do you think was a turning point that led you to be taking care, start you on that healing journey?
I think that when I finally really accepted that, because I kept fluctuating back and forth around, okay, he's talking nice, maybe I should, consider staying with him, at least until I think a lot of us will say, until my daughter's in college or whatever. When I finally kind of just released that, it's almost like when you're reaching back, you can't really reach forward as easily. And so I find, so when I reached back and let go of that, I also had to do some forgiving of myself, because again, it's like, here I am getting divorced a second time. I mean, it just felt terrible. And so forgiving myself for making choices that, I may have been able to make better, but it's almost, there's a saying, know better, do better. And so I'm now kind of knowing and continuing to grow that part of me. And I think the other thing that's really important for us as parents is to know that we've got to keep investing in ourselves. I mean, our hearts are so full for our children and supporting them, but we've got to keep investing in ourselves and doing that healing work. And so that was something that I really tried to continue to look and say, okay, what were those unhealthy patterns that led me to this place? And, and I kind of opened with that, unhealthy patterns of, I'm not worthy of unconditional love. I'm not worthy of being treated well. I have to prove myself. I mean, those all fed into these patterns for me that, I really needed to break so that I could truly move out of that old way of being into a much, oh gosh, freedom giving kind of place.
Yes, yeah. So totally true, realizing those triggers and working on them.
Yes.
Did you work as a coach, or what kind of tools did you use to, in your healing journey?
Yeah. So I first, so for me, it was, the first step was therapy. So, I really did do the look back to say, what was it that, that led me to this place, led me to this wounding. I mean, until we can really look at the wounding and heal from that, then yeah, that's a critical step. And then I'm always, I mean, I've got my master's in psychology, so I've always kind of been a person who's fascinated in that space. And I've been a leadership life coach for 20 years. And so I'm always reading things in that space. And I, with all of that, I just kept, I'm a big journaler. I will journal about things and process. And so through, another really important thing for me to be doing was to begin to work on my breath and my body awareness, because I think so many times we can get lost in our heads. And so really beginning to try and do that integrated work and begin to really work on even just mindfulness and meditation, so that you can see yourself. I think earlier you said sometimes you're trapped in the day-to-day living and you don't even see what's trapped you. And so that mindfulness can really help us begin to see those things that trap us. And like some of the work I would do is, looking at the limiting belief and saying, okay, because I have a bunch of different models that I use, and so I use them on myself. And so, you can look and say, all right, so, I feel unworthy. So that leads me to all these striving kind of behaviors, and that's how I present myself. But then beginning to, there's terminology around reworking the neural pathways and basically the way our brain works. And so if you begin to shift that and say, and begin to truly try and believe I am worthy, then that can help you, lead you into patterns of, I don't have to spend my life proving myself and striving. I can begin to claim my authentic self and be my authentic self. And earlier, before we jumped on the call, we had a few technical issues, and you say, we have to just realize that we're not perfect. And oh, but my goodness, that has been a life journey for me. And so giving myself grace, giving others grace is just a beautiful piece. So it's really, again, being able to look at the mirror, see, truly who you are, and what kind of areas you might want to work on, so that you can be that best person, that best parent for, for your child.
Yeah, totally. I love it. Because oftentimes, we don't know when we are in a relationship what's going on, and that we are the mirrors.
Yes.
And
exactly.
when we're out of a relationship, we look in the past, we look, oh, I should have said this, or I should have behaved that, but we can't really change the past unless there is a time machine and we can go back.
But well, so then it's, what's the learning, right? That's right. The whole piece, is what's the learning from it that I can take forward.
Yeah. And being present in the now, and so powerful. Yes, the breathing and mindfulness keep us centered, because the pace of life is so fast, and oftentimes we need to slow down. We need to concentrate on the breath and do those exercises to help us feel grounded. And when we are here in the now, then we can change our future. Then we can step boldly into the future and create something different. And we don't have to repeat the past. We don't have to base our life based on what happened in the past and how bad it was at the time when it happened. We can create a different future by being in the present.
And, when you say a different future, I think about, a lot of times you'll hear people talk about generational trauma, and the things we passed down. And, and I just was heartbroken that I brought my daughter into an unhealthy relationship, and she ended up experiencing wounding through him and even my behaviors. And so, so what we're doing is we're breaking that generational trauma by working on ourselves. And then also I think about, our children see this. Our children see how to ground themselves. Our children see how to be resilient. They see how to be reflective and notice things. And so I think that's a gift we can give them, is how do we navigate through this time? And because I mean, things will happen to everyone. And so to the degree we can use, to your point, you can't stay in the past. And so how can we, when the next situation comes, we're kind of a better version of ourselves as we enter that.
Yeah. And so what kind of advice can you share with single parents that just became single parents?
Yes. So first of all, stop any unworthiness tapes that you have. And I think that, when divorce happens, that can almost reinforce some of the negative talk we can give ourselves. And so know that, it may feel dark right now, but there is light right there. And finding light wherever you can in today. Take care of yourself. What are those things that bring you joy? And so for me, we're talking about the weather. Being outdoors is something that brings me joy. Music brings me joy. Friendships, being around and just having a good laugh with a good friend brings me joy. So what are those things that feed your spirit? And don't deny yourself those, because you're going to be pulled on. You're going to be pulled on by life. You're going to be pulled on by your children. And so to the degree you can invest in yourself while you're kind of navigating this time, it's so important. And then with the investing in yourself, really doing that look. I mean, you deserve to move into what I call it your going forward chapter. And so your going forward chapter is waiting for you right there. And one of the first steps is to really look at, again, what are those things that might be keeping you stuck, whether they're limiting beliefs, unhealthy patterns, and then begin to kind of reclaim, that life that you deserve, and think about, okay, when I get a little bit farther down the road, what is it that I, what do I want to claim for myself, and working through those things that might prevent you, that have prevented you in the past and might prevent you in the future, so that you're ready to embrace it.
I love it. I also recommend people to do 10 minutes of joy every single day. Do something that sets your soul on fire.
Yes.
And so important about bringing joy. Oftentimes we think, oh, it's for kids. Kids need to have joy. We're adults. We're too serious. We take ourselves too seriously, and we forget about things that make us happy. Simple things. Doesn't have to be rocket science. Could be a smile on a child's face. Could be a sunrise. I also love being in nature. I love morning walks, being able to see and witness the sunrise when the day is born. I feel like I didn't miss anything, and also connecting with nature. So it's not just exercise, moving a body, but also clearing a mind and being connected to nature and feeling expanded, feeling centered, feeling grounded. So much. So totally agree. Thank you for for your share about. I think it's a great advice, powerful advice. What do you want to be remembered by?
Oh gosh. So there's a term called wounded healer. And I think that, if we can use our wounds to help others, that makes it, I don't know if worth it's the right word, but I really want to really be able to help others and help them know that they are not alone, and there is a path forward. And there is, with my organization, I talk about my Thriver Tribe, and I want to be known for someone who nurtures that healing and is an encourager to other people who have gone through difficulty and wounding.
Yeah, I think it's important and very, it's awesome, because there are so many hopeless situations in life, and the world is constantly in disarray. And it's important to find that, to be the hope for others, so that your journey didn't it wasn't in vain. It had a purpose.
Exactly.
You lived through it, and now you can share with others and hopefully create a manual for their recovery.
Well, that's a great lead in, because I do have a book that I wrote, and it is kind of a manual. It's called Awakening the Light, a Survivors to Thrivers Going Forward story. And I wrote it, one, to share my story and my journey to encourage others on theirs, but it truly is a guide and a journal. And so I will ask questions throughout and help people identify the kinds of things that I've been talking about today. And so, to me, that would be something I would love to be remembered for, is that I maybe put something out into the world that is going to help people beyond me, beyond my time here. And one exciting thing is that I'm actually going to be giving a discount, a 25% discount on it next month in April. So I have a heart for sexual abuse awareness as well as domestic violence. And so next month is Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. And that's why I wanted to try and make it more available to people. So I wanted your readers, our listeners, to know that it's available to them if they would like to. It's on Amazon.
Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
Mm. I would want every child to know that they are unconditionally loved. I think that, so many of us adults are walking around with unworthiness issues or having a sense of conditional love. And so I think if our children can know that they are unconditionally loved no matter what, and that they are, worthy, beautiful people who, I think that will help. I think that will build a sense of confidence in them that will help them be able to navigate. You mentioned the chaos in the world, to mention whatever chaos or whatever might come to them.
I love it. I think it's important to instill that in a child, and oftentimes it's not what we say, but how we act, and this is what they emulate. No matter how many times you say something, if it's different from what you do, then it's not follow through in the same direction.
Well, and I mentioned Katie would laugh. I mean, she would lash out at me, and I think, and sometimes she was pushing me to see if I would go away. Her dad went away, and she would push me to see if I would go away, and I wouldn't. I'm always there, and I'm going to love her no matter what. And so I just think that, yeah, we may want to respond and react to some of the bad behavior, but yeah, just being that grounded. Back to the breathing and staying grounded, that helps with that as well.
What sets your soul on fire?
Oh goodness. I think the answer that comes to me is this work. I truly feel a sense of purpose and passion around it. And when I know that I've encouraged someone or helped someone to that next step, that's just, oh my goodness, that's just so worth it. Or if somebody, says, I read the book and it's been like whatever feedback I've gotten, it's like, wow, okay. I am making a difference. So that really does set my soul on fire.
I love it. Thank you. What is something exciting you're working on now?
You know what? I was asked to collaborate on a book called Healing Our Divides. No, How to Heal Our Divides. And basically the book has a chapter for a different topic. And the concept is that, we know the divides that exist. And we know many of them. But how do we go about healing those divides? And so in my chapter, I talk about the divide between the people who have experienced the wounding, like people who have experienced domestic violence, people who have experienced other kinds of abuse or trauma, and the people who don't understand and don't want to talk about it. And so healing that divide so that we as a community can feel connected and not scared to talk about it or and support one another. And then also how to heal the divide within ourselves, because again, I think so many times we live in our heads and we don't claim our bodies or our spirits. And so that book is supposed to come out in May. So I'm very excited about the fact that hopefully will they want to raise awareness around organizations that are supporting the healing of the divides. And so my hope is that it will bring awareness to the organization, and again will just really inspire people to feel less, to bring this out of the dark, and to shine some light into it.
Awesome, I love it. I also actually working on a book, a chapter in the book, and the book is called Sacred Surrender. And it's all about, coming home to yourself. So the stories of surrender, and I'm a contributing author amongst the other 17 people.
Oh, that's beautiful. And surrender is so hard. So to help encourage us to do that and find ways to do it, that is beautiful.
Yeah, and also sharing stories, of kind of overcoming and seeing that light in the end of the tunnel, and coming back home to ourselves. And the book is getting released on April 1st.
Oh, so you're coming out ahead of me. Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah, first time me trying, being a published author. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Thank you. If people would love to find you or work with you, where would they go?
So we have a website called survivorstothrivers.com. And my email is Tambry, Tambry, at survivorstothrivers.com. And so that's a great way to reach me. And then also we have Instagram and Facebook posts daily to try and just encourage people. And so I would say, if you just want some daily encouragement from myself and from others, that I would just encourage you to follow us, because our whole, like I mentioned, my Thriver Tribe, I just want people to feel a sense of community as they're navigating difficulties. And so we invite you to follow that. And again, it's Survivors, and it's plural, Survivors to Thrivers, and Survivors to Thrivers official for Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your story, and your knowledge. And congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you.
Oh, it was wonderful being here. Thank you so much.